Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Lucore Automotive. Today, it's an AMC day, so it's going to be a great day. We're going to start working on this 1979 AMC Spirit AMX once again. The last time you saw it, it was on the dyno at CIA Performance, and it did pretty well. We picked up some power, but we only picked up power on the primaries because it wasn't opening the secondaries. So we were only running that carburetor on the front two barrels, which is odd. And if you don't remember that, let me show you that real quick. So that's our situation. What we want to do is figure out whether or not that's just something that we were dealing with on the dyno, or if it does indeed behave like that on the street. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get this thing started, and I'm going to get it driving down the road. I'm going to put a camera under the hood and film that throttle linkage to see whether or not it's opening up those secondaries or not. If it's not, we're going to put a new carburetor on it and see if that fixes our problem. I've also, unfortunately, got two flat tires. So before I can do any of that, time to get some air in my tires and get the car started. If you're interested, stick around. As you can see, unfortunately, this is not the first time this car has had a flat. These are the biggest tires you can get in a 14 right now. These are 225/70 14s, and unfortunately these wheels are 14 by 10s. So trying to pop a very skinny tire on a very wide wheel is not exactly the greatest idea, and clearly I have a bit of a tire leak. So we're gonna hope this guy reinflates to the point where I can at least get it back in the shop, and we'll figure out exactly where my leak is. It only really happens when it's cold out, which hopefully the cold season is over with, but I still need to figure out where it's leaking from. I tell you, hot rodding can be frustrating at times. I do really like the look of these D-window wheels. Unfortunately, they're a bit too wide, and they're the wrong offset. So there will be another set of tires and wheels in the future. I may go up to a 15 and down a little bit as far as the barrel size goes. Because you can't find much of anything in a 14, but you can find anything in a 15. Yee-hoo! AMC 304, baby. Oh. Hmm. 11.94 volts. That should at least roll this thing over. Got a ground issue? Starter problem? Now what? See if I can use my muscle car to jumpstart my muscle car. Well, that didn't work. Why can't it ever just be the easy things? So we're gonna try a little backwoodsness here. Whether or not this is the starter or the solenoid. We're going to essentially bypass the solenoid, so I have the negative off of the solenoid. I'm not going to show you how to do this, but I have the negative off the solenoid, and I'm going to touch this to the positive and see whether or not it rolls this thing over and starts it. Nope, just clicks. So 99% chance needs a starter. Yay. It's just been sitting. How does the starter go bad just from sitting?
ahead and crank it over.
I would love to crank it over, but I bet it won't. Ready?
Sure, try it. Yeah.
Go ahead. Easy, don't hurt the paint, man.
Flashbacks to your time on the power tool.
Nope.
That wasn't it.
Do not try this at home, children. Especially not in a parking lot with a very short runway.
Missed the opportunity. Oh, you need a nut on your steering bracket. That's not what's the problem. Everything's rolling over.
So my
What gear were you putting it in when you were trying to start it?
first and then second.
Stop complaining about it and just
New
get it done.
friggin' parts.
Just stop complaining about it and get it done.
I was gonna do a fun video driving the car around.
No, you're not. It's an old AMC. It's meant to give you pain and suffering.
Like, I just wanted to make a fun video. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't want to make a video of me. Here's me working on the car again.
I didn't realize you put suspension in this.
Dude, everything in this car is new.
Everything in this car is new. That's why we need to find a good body that doesn't have a crushed passenger side frame rail. Just transplant everything out of it into a good one.
All new steering, brakes, suspension, engine, clutch, flywheel.
Now it just needs a new driver.
Hey, I didn't do this. Hey, technically I didn't do this. I wasn't the one that put it in that parking spot. I wasn't.
All right, let's not drop the starter on my head. Not drop the starter on my head. Not drop the starter on my head. Not drop the starter on my head.
Hey, look, it looks like a brand new starter. Yeah, no kidding. All right, new starter showed up. Thanks, Napa. Shove this in the hole. See if it fixes our problem.
Not drop it in my face.
Well, let's see if that fixes our problem, eh?
What was that sound?
Yay! Now that it's actually running again, and I clearly still have a squeak, which I'll deal with in a moment, it's time to actually handle what we were planning to work on in the first place. So let me restate what we're talking about. This is a 4-barrel carburetor, but it's a vacuum secondary carburetor. So you drive around on the primaries the entire time, And then as you load the car up and the vacuum signals to the carburetor, it opens up those rear two butterflies. You're running all 4 barrels. The problem is on lightweight cars, and specifically on manual transmission cars, a lot of times you don't get that secondary kicking in. Now that's honestly something that I really never even thought about when I bought this carburetor for this car. To be very honest with you, it literally didn't even show up in my brain. Now when we had it on the dyno, we did switch over the springs to go to the lightest spring that we have in this to be able to allow that vacuum secondary opening, and it never did open. We were running it on the dyno without an air cleaner, and it's on a dyno, so it's not quite exactly the same thing as driving it down the road. So a couple people did mention in the comment section on the dyno video about the fact that it needs to be on the road or it needs to be run with an air cleaner on it to be able to create the correct airflow and the correct vacuum signal to be able to open up those secondaries. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna test those comments and see whether or not that makes a difference. What I'm planning to do is to put a little tiny video camera down here on my inside of my fender well, shooting at the side of that carburetor to see whether or not it lifts that piece up, which opens up my vacuum secondaries, which opens up my secondaries, which means I get more power, baby. At least that's the plan. Whether or not my camera actually stays on the car when I put it underneath the hood, anybody's guess, but that's what we're gonna try. So let me go grab one of my cheap little Chinese knockoff versions of GoPros, and I'll be right back. Now I will 100% admit that the battery in this thing is freaking terrible. It's like 10 minutes of filming time, like that's all you get. Get it quick, that's all you get. Now the big question is, did the camera survive my drive?
Nope.
No faith! I hope this camera's still there.
It's not.
Yes! And it's still recording. How about them apples? I did a thing! Now, this should have some footage that will prove or disprove our situation.
YouTube haters?
Not really haters, but like informers. Informer. I look you boom boom down. Well, don't know if you could tell or not, but they don't open up. So it didn't matter if I put it on the road, doesn't matter if I have an air cleaner on it. It's hard to see, but that little piece that's sticking up there is supposed to, and it doesn't do anything. So the secondaries are not opening at all, which is annoying, but it is what it is, which is funny. We were just talking off camera a moment ago about the fact that we drove this thing on the Power Tour and actually enjoyed it, and it was making like 110 horsepower when we drove it on the Power Tour. We played with the carburetor and got it up to a little north of 140 horsepower, and it made it a lot more fun to drive, but that's still just on the primaries. That's not even opening up the secondaries. So as it gets up in the higher RPMs, it's just running out of breath. So how do we fix that? Well, this is how we fix that. This is a Brawler carburetor, 600 CFM, mechanical secondaries, and that's going to fix our problem. So instead of having to have any kind of a signal whatsoever to be able to open up the secondaries, it just has physical linkage that opens up the secondaries. So we're going to pull this old brand new Jegs unit off of this car and put it on a shelf somewhere for who knows what. And we're going to swap over to this beautiful brand new Brawler unit. Thank Thanks, Rich! Just a second, I'll be right with you. Oh, he's done making noise now. So we're gonna swap over to this beautiful brand new 600 CFM Brawler unit. It's a working shop. So give me a few and we'll get this thing apart. Oh, and Brawler actually sends carburetor gaskets. Look at that. Hot dog. Rear vacuum hose off. Front vacuum hose off, and we're off. Now, fortunately for me, I am replacing a 600 CFM carb with a 600 CFM carb. So, generally speaking, bang, bang, boom, no big deal. I do know what the jets are that I put in the primaries on this when we were on the dyno and got it pretty close to dialed in. So I'm going to go ahead and rejet the Brawler with the jets that I have in this. So it should be pretty dang close. So give me a moment. I'm going to pull these jets out, put them in the Brawler, and we'll move from there. It's a good thing I filmed this stuff. So I had initially thought that what I had switched this over to, my old Jegs carburetor, was 70s in the front and 72s in the rear. And what I actually ended up having to do was I actually put 72s in this. So the Brawler came with 70s in the front. And I haven't gone to the rears yet, because technically speaking, we never really tuned the rears. But what I did do, because this is a 600 CFM and this is a 600 CFM, they should flow essentially the same. What I did is I swapped the 72s out of this into this. It's still running the factory jets in the back. I'm going to leave that alone because I believe this is jetted a little bit higher than the Jegs unit was from the factory, so I'm going to leave that alone until we get it to the dyno. If we need to play with secondary jetting, we can, but at this point in time, I'm not going to worry about it. Right now, I'm going to put this thing back together again, put it back on the car, but I actually was able to reference myself from my old video of when this was on the dyno the first time, and I talked to myself and said, Austin, these are the jets that you put in it. So thanks, Austin, for the help. Another nice thing with this Brawler unit is it does come with the blue rubberized bowl gasket, unlike the Jegs unit, which came with a paper gasket, which I, of course, ripped the very first time I had to pull the bowl off and then spend 30 minutes cleaning gasket material off. So thanks, Brawler, for using the slightly better gasket material to make my life a lot easier. Plugs are already on the right side. Oh, they're not. Yeah, they are. The distance is different on the fuel inputs of the bowls. So my hard line here, too short. So yeah, that's a kick in the pants. A couple of dollars in an hour of my life to go to Jegs and back. And we're back. Looky, looky. So this one, as you can see, is slightly longer. And by slightly, I mean like an inch. It's about an inch wider pattern than that one is. So you never know what you're going to run into. Welcome to hot rodding. Isn't it fun? Get the old one off, get the new one on, move on, move on. All right, go ahead and get it rolling over. It's in gear. Hey, Jared. Go ahead. Wow, I didn't expect that to fire up quite. Oh, it's just because it had fuel that fell out in the intake. Keep going. It's getting there. It's filling the bowls. All right. She should fire. Idling rather well. I'm impressed. Not leaking fuel anywhere. Idling. Yeah, it's got a belt squeak. How about that apple? You see, YouTube, I'm not totally worthless. I can do a little bit of work. Well, time for the test drive. Yeah, if this all goes well, time to make a phone call after that to CIA Performance and get this thing back on the dyno to see what the performance difference is going to this Brawler carburetor with mechanical secondaries versus the Jegs carburetor with vacuum secondaries that didn't open. Jetting is exactly as it was in the Jegs carburetor, so ideally we should be fine. It seemed like it idled fine, started fine. Give it a drive, let's see what's going on. Back in a minute, hopefully. Not bad, not bad. Mechanical secondaries actually work. Go figure. It's a nice part about them being mechanical. So, got some fine tuning to do. Idle speed's not quite right. Got a couple of things I want to adjust. But otherwise, we're back in business and she's running pretty dang well for a right out of the box carburetor with a couple of small adjustments. So, yeah. Time to make a phone call. Next time you see this car, it's going to be back over at CIA Performance, back on the dyno. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to prove the difference, what we're going to make in incremental steps. So we're going to put it back on the dyno. We're going to see what this thing makes with purely just the carburetor change. We're not going to change anything else other than just the carburetor, see how much power we pick up. And we're going to bring it back, and we've got a couple of other upgrades we're going to do to this little AMX. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. Welcome back to the AMC AMX project. It's definitely not done or dead. Definitely not done. There's a whole lot of things ahead of it for it. All kinds of fun. If you enjoyed this, please click on the like button. Drop us a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think of the AMX. Let me know what you think about any other projects we got sitting around here. Frog, the Ford Capri, is sitting right there, in case you're curious. Or Booger, or Lean Green Machine, whatever we want to call it. Got some stuff coming up with it here shortly. Got to be able to make it turn and stop next. That's up next. But yeah, thanks for being here, guys. Subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.